I've been spraying these 2 pepper plants with fermented seaweed every 14 days since the day I put them in the ground. Same seed packet, same soil, same water, down to the ounce. The only difference is that the plant on the right kept getting sprayed, and the plant on the left I stopped at week 4. This is what 8 weeks of difference looks like, and I'll be honest with you, I expected the leaves to get bigger. I did not expect what happened to the fruit, because somewhere around week 6, the peppers on the treated plant started changing shape. Not getting bigger, changing shape. And once I figured out why, it changed how I think about everything I spray on a plant. Here's what was happening inside those plants. Coastal farmers in Japan have been pulling seaweed out of the ocean and putting it on their crops for centuries. This was not a trend. It was not a wellness fad. It was the only input they had. They didn't have a tractor pulling a tank of synthetic nitrogen behind it. They had the tide, and they had what the tide left on the rocks. And here's the part that gets me. Modern plant science has now spent about 20 years in the lab trying to reverse engineer why it worked so well. And what they found flips the whole thing on its head. Because here's the first thing you have to understand, and it's the thing almost everybody gets wrong. Seaweed is not a fertilizer. If you pick up a bottle of fermented seaweed concentrate and you look at the NPK, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium numbers on the label, you're going to see something like 0.1, 0.1, 1.0. That's basically nothing. If you're treating seaweed like plant food, expecting it to feed a heavy crop like peppers, you're using it wrong and you're going to wonder why nothing's happening. What it actually does is completely different. It doesn't feed the plant, it talks to the plant. Think of it less like food and more like a software update for your peppers. It doesn't give the plant the hardware, the nitrogen and the carbon that physically build the plant body. What it does is rewrite the operating system. It tells the plant to turn on genes it wasn't using, build more roots, raise your defenses, slow down, don't drop your fruit early. That's a completely different category of input. And once I understood that, the 14-day schedule suddenly made sense too. But we'll come back to the schedule, because the timing turns out to be the smartest part of the whole thing. So here's exactly what I used, and you can write this down right now. 5 milliliters of fermented seaweed concentrate per liter of water. If you don't think in metric, that's about 1 teaspoon per quart. Every 14 days, I foliar sprayed both sides of the leaves until it ran off. That's it. That's the whole protocol. No special equipment. A pump sprayer and a calendar. Now let's get into what was actually happening inside the plant, because this is where it gets good. Within 48 to 72 hours of that first spray, the plant starts cranking up its own hormone production. And here's the part almost everybody gets wrong. The seaweed doesn't contain big doses of plant hormones. It contains tiny signaling molecules. They're called elicitors, and those molecules land on the receptors in the plant's cells and basically flip a switch. The plant starts making its own growth hormones, more cytokinin, more auxin. The seaweed isn't the fuel, it's the ignition. And the numbers on this are not small. In the trials I went through, root length went up 59%, plant height up 40%, total biomass, the actual weight of the whole plant, up 52%. Chlorophyll content, the green in the leaves that drives photosynthesis, up 20%. In my plants, I could see the canopy pulling ahead by week 3. But I want to be specific about what I was looking at, because it wasn't just bigger. The treated plant put out more lateral branches. The internodes, the gaps between each branching point on the stem, got tighter. Shorter spacing, more branches. The plant wasn't just stretching toward the sun. It was building a stronger frame, a sturdier, almost tree-like structure. Hold on to that detail about the structure, because that frame is going to matter a lot when we get to the fruit, and to the single most heartbreaking problem in pepper growing. We'll get there. Now here's the second thing the seaweed is doing, and this one genuinely surprised me. It's running your plant's immune system like a vaccine. I know that sounds dramatic, but the biology behind it is documented, and the mechanism is specific. When that seaweed extract hits the leaf, the plant cells read 2 specific compounds in it, laminarin and alginates. Those are structural sugars the seaweed evolved to survive getting smashed by ocean waves. But here's the trick. Those molecules look almost exactly like the cell walls of fungus and bacteria. The chemical signature is nearly identical, so the pepper plant gets confused in a useful way. It feels those molecules land on its leaf and it goes, "I'm under attack. Fungus, bacteria, defend." And it fires up its entire immune response, even though nothing is actually attacking it. It's a false alarm, a drill. Just like a flu shot teaches your body to fight a virus by showing it a harmless piece of one. The plant starts producing defense enzymes, and some of these enzymes are specifically built to chew through fungal cell walls. It stockpiles antimicrobial compounds in the leaf tissue. It thickens its own cell walls with lignin to build a physical barricade. The plant is now armored and waiting before a single real pathogen ever shows up. Now here's why the 14-day timing is so clever, and I told you we'd come back to this. Running that defense system costs the plant energy, a lot of it. So the plant doesn't keep it running forever. The research shows the defense enzymes spike between 12 and 96 hours after you spray, and then they start dropping off. By the time you hit day 12, day 14, those defenses are sliding back toward baseline. So the every 2-week schedule isn't random. It's not a marketing number on the back of a bottle. It's timed to the biological half-life of the plant's defense response. You spray, the shield goes up. It holds for about 10 to 12 days, and right as it starts to fade, you spray again. Booster shot. You keep the plant in a state of permanent readiness. Those Japanese coastal farmers landed on roughly 14 days through nothing but centuries of watching their crops. And the schedule they landed on, every 2 weeks, turns out to match the exact biological defense curve that scientists only measured in the last decade, with equipment those farmers couldn't have imagined. They got it right anyway. And it shows up in the disease numbers. In field trials, growers who alternated seaweed applications with their normal fungicide rotation saw disease severity for bacterial spot and early blight drop by 60%. The seaweed didn't replace the fungicide. It made the plant's own immune system do half the work. Okay, now I have to stop you, because here's the thing I did not expect to find when I started this experiment. If you're growing classic bell peppers, the big, blocky, 4-lobed ones you stuff with rice, the ones you slice into perfect rings, the seaweed might be quietly working against the look of your peppers while it's working for your harvest. Let me explain what I mean, because this is wild. There was a greenhouse study out of Colorado that tracked exactly this. The plants getting bi-weekly seaweed spray, their classic bell shape dropped by 50 to 67%. And at the same time, long, elongated, almost finger-shaped fruit went up by 400 to 500%. 4 to 5 times more long-shaped peppers. Same plant, same seed, same variety. And here's the why. Remember the auxins. Those growth hormones the seaweed switches on? Auxins control how plant cells stretch. When you flood the fruit with that auxin signal every 2 weeks, the cells in the developing pepper start elongating vertically instead of expanding outward into that blocky bell shape. The hormone literally overrides the fruit's genetic blueprint for shape. It tells the cells, grow long, not wide. My peppers did this. I had bell pepper seed in the ground, and I was pulling off these stretched, long, slightly odd-looking fruit, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And the answer was sitting right there in the spray bottle. Now, is that a problem? If you're selling at a farmer's market and people expect a perfect blocky bell, maybe. The study even noted it can hurt marketability for commercial growers who need uniform fruit. But if you're growing food to eat, the wall thickness is there, the weight is there, the flavor is there. It's just a different shape than the picture on the seed packet. Once I understood the mechanism, it stopped feeling like a problem and started feeling like a control knob I could actually use. Now, there is one problem that ruins more pepper harvests than any disease, any drought, or any pest. And I've watched it happen more times than I want to count. Blossom end rot. You know the one. You baby a plant for 80 days. You watch a beautiful fruit swell up, and then you turn it over, and the bottom has collapsed into this dark, leathery, sunken, rotten crater. And it is gutting. And there is a piece of advice spreading everywhere about this. on forums, on gardening channels, and it is wrong, dangerously wrong, because it'll cost you a whole plant and you won't understand why. The myth is that you can spray a calcium seaweed solution on the leaves or on the rotting fruit and cure blossom end rot. You can't. And I want you to understand why, because the why protects you from wasting your money. First, once that tissue at the bottom of the fruit is dead, it's dead. That damage is permanent. There is no spray on earth that brings a collapsed cell back to life. Second, and this is the important part, blossom end rot isn't a disease. It's not a bug, it's not a fungus. It's a calcium delivery failure. And calcium in a plant is what's called immobile. Once it gets locked into a cell wall, it never moves again. And it travels up the plant almost entirely through the xylem, the plumbing that runs water up from the roots, pulled by the leaves, breathing out moisture. Here's the trap. Your leaves transpire like crazy. They're pulling most of that water flow, and most of the calcium with it, straight into themselves. But a developing pepper fruit, once it gets a thick, waxy skin on it, barely breathes at all, so it loses the competition for calcium. And if your soil swings from bone dry in a heat wave to soaking wet after a thunderstorm, that xylem flow stutters, and the fast-growing tissue at the bottom of the fruit collapses for lack of calcium. That's the black crater. So spraying the leaves does nothing for the fruit, because the plant can't move that calcium back down and into the pepper. The plumbing only runs one way. But, and this is where seaweed earns its place, it helps in a way nobody talks about. It doesn't fix blossom end rot from the top. It prevents it from the bottom. Remember that 59% jump in root growth? A bigger, denser, more aggressive root system pulls water more consistently. More consistent water means the xylem flow never stutters. Never stutters means the calcium keeps flowing up into the fruit during those critical early weeks. The prevention happens underground in the roots, not on the leaves. And I can tell you from this season, my treated plants, not one case of blossom end rot. My control plant, the one I stopped spraying at week 4, one fruit gone by week 6. That's the root system I told you to hold on to. That's why the structure mattered. Here's one more piece, and it matters when you go to buy this stuff. The best seaweed biostimulants come from a species called Ascophyllum nodosum. It lives in the intertidal zone of the North Atlantic, exposed twice a day to blasting UV, salt spray, and drying wind. It evolved survival compounds specifically to not die under extreme stress. Mannitol, betaines, stress response polysaccharides. When you spray those compounds on a pepper plant in a heat wave, the pepper borrows those same tools to ride it out instead of dropping its fruit. You're pulling 400 million years of ocean survival chemistry out of a $12 bottle. That's worth understanding. But not all seaweed products are the same, and this is the part that actually matters when you go to buy one. There are 2 ways companies process seaweed. The cheap industrial way is alkaline extraction. They blast the seaweed with heat and harsh chemicals to break it down fast. It works, it's shelf-stable, but that heat destroys a lot of the delicate compounds, the enzymes, the vitamins, the living microbes. The other way is cold fermentation, where they let bacteria slowly digest the seaweed over weeks. No heat, no harsh chemicals, and it actually amplifies the good stuff, more auxins, more beneficial microbes. In head-to-head trials, the fermented version beat the alkaline version on root mass and shoot growth. The margin wasn't enormous, both crushed the untreated control. But if you're buying one, look for the word fermented on the label. That's the one I used. That's the one with the live biology in it. Now let me close the loop on the fruit, because I told you at the very beginning, I didn't expect what happened to the fruit, and I don't just mean the shape. The treated plant set its first fruit 10 days earlier than the control. 10 days. And more than that, it was still producing at week 10, while the control plant had already wound down and basically clocked out for the season. That's the cytokinin effect again. The seaweed keeps signaling the plant that it's still in active growth mode. It delays senescence, the natural shutdown and aging of the plant. So instead of giving you one big flush and quitting, the treated plant just kept going. Green fruit production stayed high. The plant never got the memo that the season was supposed to be ending. And here's the last thing, the part you can't even see. Researchers measured the actual fruit. At a high concentration, seaweed-treated peppers showed an 11% increase in vitamin C compared to untreated fruit. The antioxidant levels went up measurably too. So the plant wasn't just producing more peppers for longer on a stronger frame with no blossom end rot. The peppers themselves were nutritionally better. Here's what I can put my name on from this season. The structure changed. More branches, tighter frame, earlier than the control by weeks. Zero blossom end rot because the roots never stopped pulling. Fruit set 10 days early, and the plant just kept going when the control had already given up. The shape shift toward long peppers? That's real, and now you know the mechanism. And here's the last one. I never burned a single leaf. Not once. Seaweed is a biological conditioner. It doesn't carry volatile nitrogen salts. You'd almost have to try to hurt a plant with it at standard dilution. But hear me on this one thing, because I don't want you walking away with the wrong idea. This is not a fertilizer. If your plant is starving for nitrogen, seaweed will not save it. The NPK is almost zero. This works alongside good soil and good feeding, not instead of it. It's the engine additive. It is not the gas in the tank. Here's what I keep coming back to. Sitting here at the end of this season, looking at these two plants. Those farmers didn't have a lab. They didn't have a gene sequencer or an enzyme assay. They had the ocean, a crop, and the patience to watch what happened over hundreds of years. And the schedule they landed on, every 2 weeks, turns out to match the exact biological defense curve that scientists only measured in the last decade. With equipment those farmers couldn't have imagined. They got it right anyway. That's not a coincidence. That's 400 years of watching a crop and trusting what the land was telling them. And the best part is it costs almost nothing to try. A bottle of fermented seaweed runs about $12 to $15 and gives you something like 200 sprays. The downside is basically zero. The biology behind it is documented, it's real, and it's been hiding in plain sight on the back of a cheap bottle this whole time. I'm going to keep filming these plants through the end of the season, and the next test is already in the ground. The same peppers, but this time it's Japanese fermented fish emulsion going head-to-head against the seaweed. 2 ancient methods, 1 garden bed. I genuinely don't know which one is going to win, and I want to find out with you. So if this changed the way you think about what you're putting on your plants, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share this with somebody who's still fighting blossom end rot the hard way, and subscribe to Brother Charles' tips so the fish emulsion showdown lands right in front of you when it drops. I'll see you in the next one.